A hearty welcome to all of you to day 3 of our session on microservices. Before we proceed with the deliverables that we have planned for today, I want all of you to please look at the agenda and tell me, till now, as per our agenda, how many modules we have already completed, please? Correct. We have completed the first 2 modules. If you recollect, we started our training program with an introduction to microservices. Post that in yesterday's session, which was day 2, we have completed an introduction to Spring Boot. Please note it was important for us to get a good introduction to Spring Boot because Spring Boot is the framework that we are going to use to implement our microservices. Each microservice is nothing but it is going to be a Spring Boot app, right? So it was important for us to gain a thorough introduction to Spring Boot. So that is what we have completed yesterday. So today, the plan is, even before we move on to the introduction to Netflix OSS and Spring Cloud and further, we will first have to take a scenario and try to create a microservice based app for this scenario. And then once the microservices are designed, developed, and we all understand what's happening in these microservices, then we can go on to the next topic discussion, which will be on Netflix OSS and Spring Cloud. Team, are you all with me? Yeah. So probably today, I might really not do module 3 at all because today, depending on how much of time we have, we might spend our time on analyzing the microservices that we create. And once we get a good understanding of it, then we can move on to the module 3 onwards. Yeah. We'll come back to this if at all it's required. And meanwhile, what I'm going to do is, I'm sure all of you remember, before proceeding with the deliverables that we have planned for today, we will attempt a small quiz. The quiz will indirectly help us to kind of review and revise whatever we have done in our previous day's session. Yeah. So come, let's attempt some questions here that you see on the screen. Start with question number 8, please. Yeah. Which framework is an opinionated framework which helps us to easily and quickly create and execute standalone Spring-based applications? Correct. Spring Boot is the correct answer, isn't it? Perfect. Next question, please. Question number 9. Which framework takes an opinionated view of the Spring platform and third-party libraries so that me and you as a developer can get started with minimum fuss? Correct. Spring Boot itself, right? So these are 2 different ways of expressing same Spring Boot. Okay. Correct. The answer for 9th question also is Spring Boot. Yeah. 10th question, please. Spring Boot uses dash tool to manage its dependency management and packaging requirements. Only Maven, is it? Think about it. Many of you are saying Maven or Gradle. Both, right? So what should be the correct answer for this? Correct. It should be build tool. Spring Boot uses or it depends on a build tool to manage its dependency management and packaging requirements. Of course, the recommended build tools are either you can use Maven or you can use Gradle, right? These are the 2 recommended build tools. Yeah. So the correct answer for this is build tool. Next, question number 11, please. The group of dependency descriptor modules provided by Spring Boot to support and provide particular features to your application is called dash modules. Perfect. They are called as starter modules, right? Perfect. They are starter modules. Yeah. Question number 12, please. Yeah. Question number 12. The @REST controller annotation is a combination of dash and dash annotations. Correct. It is a combination of @controller and response body, right? @controller plus response body. A combination of these two is REST control, right? Perfect. Question number 13, please. Which starter module of Spring Boot needs to be added to your app to get management endpoints like health, info, env, and many others? Correct. The actuator starter module, right? Actuator. Okay, perfect. Question number 14, please, all of you. Which starter module needs to be added to the Spring Boot applications to resolve HTML views? Correct. Timeleaf is the HTML based view template engine, right? So 14 question, first part of the question's answer is Timeleaf. Yeah. And what is the default location where it expects the HTML views to be present when you're using Timeleaf? Templates folder, right? Under SRC main resources, templates folder, you have to keep all your views. Yeah. This is the default location, but do you think the default location is changeable? Yes, you can, right? There are properties available where you can specify Spring Timeleaf prefix and Spring Timeleaf suffix, and you can specify what should be the folder and what should be the extension, right? Next, 15th question, please. What dependency can be added to your Spring Boot app to enable some useful development features like auto redeploy, live reload, etc.? Correct. Spring Boot Dev Tools, right? Spring Boot Dev Tools. Yeah, correct. That's the correct answer. Yeah. 16th question, please. Which component can help us in providing convenient features like dependency management between the various versions and the parent, and also is capable of flagging the application's class as a runnable class? Maven is just a partial answer. Maven is wrong. Parent is wrong. Correct. Correct. Be very specific. Spring Boot Maven plugin. We are not talking about the Maven as a tool. We are talking about a Spring Boot plugin called as Spring Boot Maven plugin. Isn't it? Yeah. So that is the correct answer for the Spring Boot Maven plugin. Yeah. 17th and the last question for our quiz, please. Which is the very convenient way of creating a new Spring Boot application from scratch? Correct. Spring initializer, right? So this is the web interface which you can access by going to start.spring.io. That's a very convenient way of creating your Spring Boot application from scratch, right? Of course, certain IDEs internally also provide you the same option. For example, if you're using the Spring Tool Suite, which is STS IDE, within STS IDE itself, you can create a Spring Boot starter module or a starter project, and all these menus will be available within the IDE itself. Yeah. But again, in case you are not using STS, like me, I'm not using STS, right? I'm using Eclipse. I'm not even able to add a STS plugin to Eclipse. So in that case, we need not be dependent, right? We can just create a app from scratch from start.spring.io, and then we can import it onto your IDE. Team, are you all with me? Yeah, of course, you can add this plugin onto Eclipse, but on my machine, some security issue, it's not allowing me to add. Okay. But after all, now not a problem at all, guys, because after all, when you import it onto your IDE, after all, it's a Maven project, so it's okay. So if you're able to add the plugin, well and good. Yeah. If you don't have a plugin, also not a problem. So guys, thanks for attempting the quiz, and I'm sure you have realized that the quiz is kind of indirectly helping us to review and revise whatever we have done in our training till now. Isn't it, guys? All of you? Right. And hopefully all of you are able to see that in the MS Teams, I have been uploading the daily recordings. I've been uploading the programs that we have been discussing on a daily basis, all that. Yeah. So make use of that, please. Yeah. Please note the purpose of uploading things in MS Team is not give you lenience that you can omit some sessions. Anyway, Savita is going to share the recordings. Okay, so today I will not attend. Tomorrow I'll come and attend. That's not the funda. If you have nominated for a training, please note it is your duty to attend the training on all the days. Planning your other activities accordingly. Yeah, I am sharing these recordings so that it will be useful for people. Yeah, the moment I see people are taking undue advantage of these recordings and they are not regular and they are not doing the task regularly, I would probably remove that MS Team and only probably enable it once the training is over. Yeah. So keep that in mind, please. For whatever reason, in case you have still not joined the MS Team, I'm not really interested in listening to any reasons. Yeah, reasons can be anything. But in case you have not joined the MS Team till now, this is the details for the MS Team. So you go ahead and join the MS Team using one of these options. And during the break, I'll probably go back and approve all the pending requests, please. Yeah. So are we all good to start off with our deliverables for today, please? Yes. Okay. So from today, our journey of microservices implementation starts. Yep. From today onwards, okay, our microservices implementation journey starts. I want all of you to be very, very attentive. Of course, I don't mean that you were not attentive earlier, but I want all of you to be very, very attentive because these programs are going to be lengthy. If you are not attentive and you miss out on something, I might really not be able to explain the entire program all over again. So I want all of you to be very, very attentive. Yeah. So before I explain or I take you through the entire code bit by bit, idea with us at present is this. Yeah, just give me a minute. So for this entire training program, to understand the concept of microservices and to also understand how to implement microservices and all other peripheral projects that might be required, initial step is we will create our microservices. Yeah, as I've been telling, what after all is a microservice? A microservice is nothing but a Spring Boot app, isn't it? Yeah. So nothing great. So don't think that when I say microservice, yes, microservice is an architecture which helps you to build a distributed app. And the entire distributed app is made up of several microservices. Each microservice handles a particular concern, right? You remember we have discussed about all these things on day one. Yes, right. So in our training, just to keep it simple, we will be creating a distributed architecture based app based on microservices. So we will be creating two microservices. One microservice. So we will be handling a use case on cafe related application. So this microservice based app is on cafe application. When I say cafe, you can think of any cafe, any restaurant, anything. To support this cafe based application, I have two microservices, just to keep it simple. One microservice, this is a microservice. This is also a microservice. So when I say these are microservices, what are they after all? This is going to be a Spring Boot app. This is also going to be a Spring Boot app. Okay. So one microservice, I'm calling it as Cafe Info. Okay, Cafe Info. As the name itself suggests, this manages the information about the cafe. So for every cafe, I have a cafe ID, I have a cafe name, and I have a cafe description. Okay. Plus, I also have another microservice, which I call it as cafe review. Okay, cafe review. Now, talking about the first microservice called cafe info, as I just now told you, to manage cafe info, as the name itself suggests, it handles a entity class called cafe info, where or a cafe, where there are three things that it is managing about a cafe: cafe ID, cafe name, and cafe description. Okay. Now, apart from managing it, it also allows me to add a new cafe. So I can add a new cafe. After adding a new cafe, I can get a list of all the cafes that are available. Or if I want to get the details of one particular cafe, I can even query for that one particular cafe and get the details. So all such facilities and functionalities I have added in the cafe info. Yeah. Now, related to this is another microservice called cafe review. Any guesses what the cafe review might be doing? What do you think the cafe review microservice might be allowing me to do? Correct. Provide review for the cafe. So for example, I want to provide a review about the cafe. So what I can do is I can add a new review, like correct customer review. I can add a new review. So for a particular cafe, I can give a review rating. I can give some remarks on it. So few things I have to manage the cafe review. So I can add a new review. Similarly, I can view all the reviews. I can view the review for a particular cafe. All those functionalities are available. Yeah. Now, these two are the microservices that I would have. Team, are you all with me? Yes. So, before we proceed further, let me show you each of these microservices bit by bit. Let us analyze the code also bit by bit, and then we will come back and kind of summarize whether we have understood how the entire stuff works. Yeah. So just to keep it simple, what I've done is uh, each microservice, as we said, will have to be a self-sufficient unit of work, right? Addressing a particular concern. So just to simulate that, I have this cafe info and cafe review. Cafe info will have all the functionalities, all the UI, all the database that is required to manage the cafe info. Similarly, cafe review will also have all functionalities, all views, all database, whatever to manage cafe review. Is that okay, all of you? Yes. Okay. Now, uh, these are typical Spring Boot app. So how have I created them? Exactly like how we know it. Yeah. So for example, I have gone to start.spring.io, and in start.spring.io, I have given the details. For example, I have said that I want to use a Maven project. The language I've chosen is Java. The version of Spring Boot I'm using is 2.6.6. And for Cafe Info, I have given the group as ComWipro. Artifact ID is Cafe Info, all that. And I'm using Java 8. Of course, in your case, you can use any version of your choice. And here in dependencies, I have added the required dependency. Like I'm creating a web application, so I've added the web dependency. I've added time leaf because I want to use time leaf based views. I've added actuator because if I want to view the management endpoints, I want actuator. I have even added the I have added the dev tools also. Plus, because I am planning to interact with the database, I have also added the JPA dependency. So I will be using Spring Data JPA for this project. So if at all you want to interact with the database, you can use Spring Data JPA. And as a database, just to avoid depending on an external database, just to keep it simple, I am using a in-memory database called H2. Team, are you all with me? Yeah. Anyway, I will show you the pom.xml file so you will understand what's happening. And I am going to share these programs by today. Once the training gets over, I'm going to share both these programs. So don't worry. Just concentrate, see what and all is happening. Okay. So similarly, even for review, cafe review also, I have used this. Okay. Now let's look at cafe info microservice, please. So this is a regular Spring Boot app, which is acting as my microservice. So first let us look at pom.xml. Yeah. Now, certain things here might not be really required. So don't worry about it right now. Okay. Certain things are required only when we start using the other peripheral projects. So for now, you can ignore. Okay. Anyway, have a look at this, please, all of you. Is this font okay? I've just zoomed it. Is this font okay for all of you to read it correctly? Yes. So can you look at this? This is the same kind of pom.xml that we have been using even for our regular Spring Boot app, right? Can you look at this and tell me which version of Spring Boot am I using, please? Correct. We are using version 2.6.6. Yeah. And in my case, which version of Java am I using? Right. I am using Java 1.8. So you can see that I have Java version 1.8. Yeah. Don't worry about the Spring Cloud version. We will require the Spring Cloud related dependencies, etc. from Monday onwards. So from Monday onwards, I will be discussing other peripheral projects that might be useful in our distributed setup. So we will be using some of the peripheral projects like Service Registry, which is a product called Eureka. We will also be working with some load balancer, some circuit breakers, etc. So many of them are from Spring Cloud. So this entry is for Spring Cloud. For now, don't bother about it. Just ignore it. Don't think, don't even worry that this line is there. Okay. For now, you can ignore this line. Anyway, when I come to the discussion, I will talk about. Is that okay, all of you? Yes. Now, I want you to look at the regular dependencies that has got added here. Yeah. Look at the dependencies here. Are you all comfortable with these dependencies? Yes, right. So there is the dependency for Spring Boot Starter Web because I'm creating a regular web application. There is dependency for actuator. Yeah. Because I'm using time leaf based views, there is dependency for time leaf. Plus, because I'm going to use a database and I'm planning to use Spring Data JPA to interact with the database, I need this dependency called Spring Boot Starter Data JPA. Plus, in terms of database, I am planning to use an in-memory database called H2. There are many in-memory databases you can use. I am using one in-memory database called H2. Yeah, of course. If you same funda, if you don't want to use an in-memory database, you want to use a different database like MySQL or Oracle or whatever, that also you can use. Yep. Please note, please note, if you want to know how to create a Spring Boot app which interacts with a database, I have already uploaded the Spring Boot recordings in the MST. So maybe the 4th day recording you can watch, because in the 4th day recording, I would have discussed, or 3rd or the 4th day, I don't remember, 3rd or the 4th day, I would have discussed about how to interact with the database. So I would have discussed about how to interact with Oracle database and another program, same program, but I would have shown you how to interact with the in-memory database called H2. Yeah. So Please go through it if you want to know how to interact with the database. Yeah. So these are the two dependencies that I've added. Are you all comfortable with all these dependencies that you see from line number 20 to line number 41, please? Yes, right? Now, let me scroll down. I've commented this dependency. This will be required only from Monday onwards, so don't worry. Yeah. Plus, look at the dependency for dev tools. Are you all fine with this dependency for dev tools, please? Yes. Okay. Plus, though I have not explicitly asked for it, by default in Spring Boot app, it will also provide you a dependency for Spring Boot starter test. So if you want to write your JUnit test cases for both unit testing and integration testing, all that support will be available through this. Yeah. So all that you can add. Yeah. Next, again, don't worry about this dependency management. Dependency management entry that you see here is only required when you plan to use Spring Cloud. Yeah, don't worry about it right now. We will only require it when we start working. Okay, when we start working on the Eclipse and other things. Yeah, people who have joined us today, you might really not know about the instructions I've given you. Please note, if at all you have any doubts, please make a note of your doubts. When I open the forum for question and answers, I will be able to take your queries, please. Is that okay, all of you? Yeah. And people who are not comfortable with Spring Boot, I'm repeating, people who are not comfortable with Spring Boot or who you want to learn more on Spring Boot, I have uploaded the recordings of Spring Boot. So please take the advantage of the long weekend. Please go through all the Spring Boot related discussions and then you can be ready for the Monday session onwards. Yeah, I have given a very good level of introduction on Spring Boot yesterday. That is enough for you to continue. But if you want to learn more, please go through the recordings. Is that okay, all of you? Yeah. And in that recording also, I have spoken about the scope. Whenever you are adding a dependency, you can specify the scope for the dependency. Whether the dependency should be provided during which phase of your application, whether it should be provided during compile stage or whether the dependency should be provided during runtime or should it be provided during test time, all that you can decide by using the scope option. Yeah, this is nothing to do with microservices or Spring Boot. This is everything to do with Maven. Okay. So when you add a dependency, you can specify when the dependency might be needed. Is that okay, all of you? Yeah. From now onwards, please make a note of your doubts. Don't raise your doubts immediately on the chat window. There are more than 100 people in this training. It will not be possible for me humanly to look at all the queries that are coming on the chat window. So I will open up the forum for Q&A after I complete today's deliverables. Yeah, please make a note. I will help you clarify those doubts once I complete my discussions. Is that okay? Yes. Now, as I told you, don't worry about this dependency management. Once we start working with Spring Cloud, that is Monday onwards, we will understand what is the need for this dependency management and stuff like that. Yeah. So that you can ignore. But the last one, are you all comfortable from line number 74 to 81? Yes, right? You remember the Spring Boot Maven plugin, which provides all the convenient features, isn't it? Yeah. So that is it. So it is almost the same kind of form.xml. Wherever there is a mention of Spring Cloud, don't worry about it right now. I will be explaining about that from Monday onwards. Yeah, at present, these are not required. Yeah. So this is the pom.xml. And once the pom.xml is ready, now let's start building our app bit by bit. So let me show you the project structure here. Can you all see the package structure here, please? Yeah. I have com.wipro. I have com.wipro.controller. Inside this package, I've kept my controller. Then com wipro model, where I have my model class. Com wipro repo, where I have my repository interface. And com wipro service, where I have my service. So I have created a package structure here. Plus, I also, in case I'm using some views, the views also will be available here under the templates. Plus, please note what file am I using for my application configuration. Correct. I am using application.yml file. Please note application.yml file is very similar to application.properties. It's an alternative to application.properties. The YAML file follows a hierarchical structure of data. Parsing a YAML file and providing configuration in a group wise, all that becomes easy when you use YML file. So you will, by default, when you create a Spring Boot app, you will get application.properties, right? Just rename it as application.yml and you should be able to start using it. Yeah. Now let me show you the application.yml file for now. Yeah. Analyze this. Just go through it for a minute, then we'll have a talk about it, please. Can you look at this configuration file for the cafe info microservice and tell me, when I run the cafe info microservice, on which port does it run? Correct, 8095, right? So this is the port on which it will run. Yeah. Plus, which database am I using in this example? Just by looking at the configuration, can you make out? Yes, because we are using H2, I have to provide some data source details so that I'm able to connect to the H2 in-memory database, right? So under the main property called Spring and data source, see, look at the structure. Spring is the main property. Then I give two spaces. Then I have this subproperty. Again, under that subproperty, if you have another subproperty, again, you have to give two spaces. Like this, you have to create a structure. Okay. I think I've spoken about this also in Spring Boot discussions. So you can always refer to the videos that I've shared. Now you can see here, under the Spring data source property, I have provided all the data source properties that is required to connect to the database. So what is the connection URL? JDBC H2 MSDB. So this MSDB is a database name. It can be anything. For my case, I have used a database name called MSDB. Yeah, this is the connection URL. And I'm using a username called root. I'm also using a password called root while connecting to this. Plus, this is the driver class name, which is this. Team, are you all with me? Exactly like this you can use in your case. Yeah. So this is the data source detail. Plus, if you want to view the H2 database in a GUI console, so that you'll be able to see the database, you'll be able to see the table, you can see the data that is there and all that. You can also enable a H2 console. So to enable the H2 console, again, under Spring, you have a property called H2, and under that, you have this property called console, and under console, you have these properties which you can enable. Yeah. So you can see that I've enabled the H2 console, plus the H2 console will be available on which endpoint, under which path the H2 console will be provided, guys. Yes, on /H2. Yeah. Because hopefully you were there when I just now told. What should you do when you have any doubts, please? What should you do when you have any doubts, Bikash? please do not forget. Yeah, I understand your enthusiasm, but please do not forget, because I'm not looking at the chat window all the time, guys. Yeah, just imagine, put yourself into my shoes. Assume you are the trainer and you are handling 100 participants in a training. Will it be possible for you to keep looking at the chat window and also concentrate on what you are delivering? Think from my perspective, guys. No, right? So please, I'm requesting you, please make a note. Yeah. I think because just to answer your doubt, I told you that application.yml can be used as an alternative to application.properties. So if you're comfortable using application.properties, please go ahead and use it. Not a problem. Both of them are one and the same. Either you can use application.properties or application.yml. But I highly recommend you to use application YML, because from Monday onwards also we will be creating multiple set of configuration. We'll be grouping them and we'll be picking up specific configuration and then running the app. For all that, the YML file will be more suitable. Yeah. Team, are you all comfortable with application.yml? I highly recommend you guys to use it. Yeah. So all the lines of configuration I've written here, are you all comfortable with it? Yeah. My cafe info will run on 8095 and data source related configuration I have specified. What is the connection URL, username, password, and driver class name. And H2 database, I've enabled the console, and the H2 console will be available on /H2. And we are all aware that Spring Boot JPA internally works with a JPA provider called Hibernate, right? By default, Spring Data JPA internally uses a ORM layer or a JPA provider called Hibernate. So you can even use Hibernate specific properties, like under Spring JPA Hibernate, I'm using one property called DDL-auto and I've set it to create. DDL-auto means DDL stands for data definition language-auto. That means, and I've set the value to create. That means whenever my app runs, the tables or the sequences, etc., will be automatically created. You need not sit and create your tables. Automatically, Hibernate will run the DDL commands to create the required tables and other structures. Team, are you all with me? So these are the properties that I've used in the application.yml file. Is that okay, all of you? Yes. So we have discussed about the pom.xml, and before moving on to the code, I'm just showing you the application.yml. Yeah. Next, let us now look at our code. Then we'll come back to the views wherever necessary. Okay. Now, just to keep it simple, first, let me show you the model class. Okay. Let me show you the model class. This is my model class called Cafe Info. And I also have Cafe Review, but why this Cafe Review is required at present, I will not discuss about it. Let me finish one round and then I will tell you why I have added this Cafe Review here. Okay. For now, don't worry. First, let us look at Cafe Info. Have a look at this, please, all of you. This is a regular Cafe Info class, a regular Java Beans type. Can you tell me in the Cafe Info class, how many properties are there? Correct. 3 properties are there, right? Cafe ID, cafe name, and cafe description. Now, out of these properties, these 3 properties, which property is used to uniquely identify a particular cafe info? Correct. Cafe ID, because cafe ID is marked with @ID. Yeah, so this will be acting as a primary key, and because it is marked as @ID. And how will this cafe ID be generated? Should you manually enter the cafe ID? No, right? It will be automatically generated. So there is an annotation called @generated value that you are using. Yeah. And rest of it, I'm keeping track. I'm just having my regular constructor. Then I have a parameterized constructor, which is just taking a cafe name and cafe description. Then a regular Java bean style, I have appropriate getter and setter methods. Plus, I also have a toString method. Yeah. If you guys want to use Lombok to automatically generate these boilerplate code, please go ahead and use Lombok also. But during our trainings, we see that many people don't know Lombok also. Lombok, they don't use it. So we don't want to complicate things. If you are aware of Lombok and you want to take the help of Lombok to auto-generate all these, you are most welcome to use. But here we have manually created our constructors, getter, setters, and kept it ready. Are you all with me, guys? Yes. And you can see that this class called cafe info has been annotated with @entity. So this is my entity class. And if you don't specify any specific table annotation, automatically Hibernate will use the same entity class name in lowercase to be the table name. So the class name is cafe info. So the table name also will be cafe info. Guys, are you all with me? Yes. So this is the entity class or the model class that I have been kept ready. Okay, for this. Now, once this is ready, let's look at the repository package. Inside this, I have the cafe info repository. Yeah, cafe info repository. Have a look. If you are aware of Spring Boot JPA and you know how to create a Spring Boot app which interacts with a JPA, I'm sure you will understand or you will be aware that the Spring Data JPA follows a repository model to interact with the database, right? So to be able to interact with your database and to perform all your CRUD operations, etc., you need to create your own repository interface, right? So here, I am creating my own repository interface. I'm calling it as Cafe Info Repository. And whenever you're creating your own repository interface, just extend from one of the repository interfaces provided by Spring Data JPA. One is JPA repository, or you can even use CRUD repository. Yeah. So I repeat, in your program, you are planning to use Spring Data JPA to interact with your database, right? To do that, Spring Data JPA follows a repository interface based model. So you have to create your own repository interface, which I've created here. And when you create your own repository interface, just extend from the repository interface provided by Spring Data. So one repository interface that you can use is JPA repository, and another alternative is called as CRUD repository. Yeah. So this will provide all the facilities that might be required for you to work with your database. Like if you want to use the save method to save your data, if you want to use the find methods to get your data, all that support is available through this interface. Yeah. But when you create your own repository interface and you extend from either JPA repository or CRUD repository, it will expect you to pass two things. What are the two things? First is your managed entity. Which is your managed entity? So in our case, using this repository interface, I am planning to perform my database related operations on the objects of what type? Cafe info, right? So cafe info is my entity. So I need to supply the name of my managed entity. That's the first argument. The second argument is what is the type of the entity's ID. So look at this example. This is the property which is acting as ID, right? Cafe ID. What type is it? Guys, in my example, what type is it? Integer, right? So integer is what I'm giving here. Okay, integer is what I'm giving you. So once your interface is ready, your entity is ready, create your interface. And in this interface, you will you'll create your own interface by extending from either JPA repository or CRUD repository, and you will supply two things. First one is the manage entity name, which in my case is cafe info, and the second one is what is the data type of its ID. So in my case, it is integer. Yeah, guys, are you all with me? Yes. Yeah. Now, people who were new to Spring Boot and you are not very confident on Spring Boot interacting with a database, I've already told you what you should be doing. I have uploaded the Spring Boot recordings. Please look at either day 3 recording or day 4 recording, where I would have discussed about the Spring Boot with Spring Data JPA interaction. So I highly recommend you to go through it, where I would have elaborately spoken about it. Are you all with me? Okay. So just go through that, please. Okay. And so my repository interface is ready. Okay. Now, once these are ready, that means my model class is ready and my repository interface is ready. Yep. Next, let us look at our controller class. Okay. Let us look at our controller class. So this is our controller class, and in our controller class, as the name itself suggests, here is where we will have the functionalities that we want to implement. Okay. Now, before I move on to discuss about this controller and move on to the cafe review, etc., I'll do one thing. I will run this app right now so that you will get a fair idea of how the things work. And then when we look at the controller, you will get a fair idea. Okay. So I'm just running this app. Don't worry. I will first run it so that when we discuss the controller, when we discuss the view, etc., you will get a fair understanding of the entire stuff. Okay. So let's watch the console. You can see here that Tomcat has initialized and your app has started. 8095 is the port on which it has started. It also knows that you are using H2. So the console is available on H2. And finally, you can see that your app has started on this port and it is available, right? Now, according to my app, how does it run? Okay. So when you access the main app, I want all of you to look at this very carefully, please. Yeah. So when I'm accessing the main URL, which is 8095 on the root, can you all see what is it showing? It is showing me a view, isn't it? Yeah. So here using this view, I can add a new cafe. Okay, I can add a new cafe. So in my case, yes, it looks like an index page. And in this, I can add a new cafe. So I need not enter a cafe ID because anyway it is auto-generated. I need to enter only two things. Okay, so let me enter a cafe name. Let me just call it as Nilgiris is the cafe name. And I'll just give a description for this cafe. So I will just call it as Nilgiris is a cake shop. Okay, so I'll just give the detail and then I will click on submit. So when I click on submit, nothing great. You just get a confirmation screen telling cafe information successfully added. And I have also given a link just to keep it simple. I've just given a link where you can view all the cafe details. Yeah. So if I click on this view all cafe details, I've not done it colorfully. I'm just showing directly. I'm printing the data. Yeah. Can you see at present how many cafes are there? Only one cafe is there, right? So I can probably try this in Edge. At least JSON formatter has been added in Edge. So That might look good. Okay. So this one, right? So earlier I added one, so let me close this. Earlier I added one cafe. Now I can add multiple cafes if I need. For example, I add one more cafe called, okay, Eat Right. Yeah. And this is, I'll just say this is a vegan cafe, something like that. Yeah. And I'll click on sub. So again, it says cafe information successfully added, and you can see, you can view all the cafe details. So if I click on view all cafe details, I'll get 2 cafe details. Are you all comfortable with this, guys? Yes, right. This is a simple functionality that I've implemented. Plus, apart from this, just adding, you can also directly support certain URLs. For example, get cafes will show me all the cafes, right? Similarly, I can also use get cafe and I can pass a cafe ID. Okay, for example, if I pass a cafe ID as a path variable, as a path parameter, you will get to see only that particular cafe details for that particular ID. Are you able to see? Yeah, I'm passing the cafe ID as the path parameter, and you can see only those details coming up. So for example, if I pass cafe ID 2, you'll get only that particular cafe ID details. Yeah. If I use cafe get cafes, you will get all the details. Yeah. Plus any guesses, if I just say count, any guesses what it might show me in my case now? Yes, count will only count the number of restaurants you have. So in my case, it is just saying 2, isn't it? Yeah. So these are some of the functionalities that I am supporting. Team, are you all with me? Yes. Okay. So now that I have shown you how it works, understanding the code might become much better now. Yeah. So come, let's continue. You can see here that I was supposed to discuss the controller, right? So just look at the controller, please, all of you. Yeah. Have a look. So right in front of the controller class, which is cafe info controller, I'm using @controller. Yeah. When you see @controller annotation, what is the hint that you get? Are the methods going to return data, or is it going to return view? Yes, majority of the methods might be returning a view. Hence, on the class level, I am using @controller, isn't it? Yeah. Then I am using, this is my controller class, cafe info controller. Plus here, you can see that I am auto wiring an object of type cafe info service. Yeah, I am auto wiring an object of type cafe info service. What is this cafe info service? You can see here, instead of writing all the business logic in the controller method itself, I'm just dividing the functionalities. All the actual functionalities, I'm keeping it under a separate service class. So you can all see here, com Wipro service. You can see here I have cafe info service.java. So interacting with the database, making the actual request, getting the data, all that logic will be written in this service class. Yeah. So from the controller, I will only call the appropriate method of the service, but actually the service is what is doing the actual functionalities. Yeah. Guys, are you all with me? Again, because it was a small program, I could have kept this logic in the controller itself, but just to simulate a production environment, I'm keeping all this logic in this service. Okay, so you can see that there is a service class here. And in this service class, I am having the actual functionalities. Okay, all this is there. So now let's look at one by one. Okay, so let's go to the controller. So let's go to the controller, and whenever we need to analyze the service class, we will go to it. Okay. Now, look at this. So one is I have auto wired an object of type cafe info service. And using this cafe info service, I will call the appropriate method wherever I require. Yeah. Now, let us look at the code from line number 29 to 32. Yeah. Look at this. I am using get mapping. That means whenever we receive a get request on the main root URL. Yeah. See, using the get mapping annotation. What is the meaning? When we receive a request on the main root URL, it will call this index method. Right? And what is this index method returning, guys? What is this index method returning? It is returning index. Now, what is this index be treated as? Will it be treated as regular string data or will it be treated as a view? Correct, it will be treated as a view. And in our case, if we are using time leaf and if we do not make any changes per se, or if we don't change any default configuration, the index logical name that you are returning here should get mapped to which file? Yes. Under the templates folder, it should get mapped to index.html. Isn't it, guys? Yeah. So that is what happens. So when I hit the main URL, I am returning index. The index logical name, okay? Logical name index gets mapped to physical name, okay, or physical view called this, isn't it? Yeah, all of you know about this, right? Yesterday also we have discussed. Yeah, so when I hit this, it will go to index. So what we'll do is we'll go to index now. So you can see here under the SRC main resources, under the templates folder, I've kept one file called index.html. Yeah. So let's look at this. So which is this index.html? This one, right? See, when I hit the main URL, this is the index.html which is coming up. So you can see that there is a heading, plus there is a form. Inside the form, I'm asking you to enter two things. One is the cafe name and the cafe description. And then I have a submit button. And when I click on the submit button, I will be calling a particular, I'll be making a call to a particular controller endpoint. Yeah. But this is the index page. So let's look at the index page, all of you. Majority of it is HTML and CSS just for styling. Yeah, go through it. Spend a minute on this code, please, all of you. So I'm sure you're able to make out that this form is the main important part here, right? Or rest of the things are only styling and others. You can see that inside this form, how many details should the user enter, guys? How many inputs should the user enter? Correct. Two things, right? One is the cafe name. So here you can see I have an input type text with the name called cafe name and I've made it mandatory to enter. So one is the cafe name that the user will enter and the cafe description. So after entering the cafe name and cafe description, the user will click on the submit button. When the user clicks on the submit button, look at line number 14. What kind of request is made, guys? What kind of request is made? Correct. A post request is made on which endpoint? Add cafe endpoint. Are you able to make out? Look at the action. Yeah. When the user enters the data and when the user clicks on the submit button, a post request is made on the endpoint called /add-cafe. So where is this method which is servicing any post request coming for add cafe? Where do you think that code would be? Where do you think the endpoint would is managed? Correct. It will be in the controller, right? So from here, the control will go to the controller, right? Are you all with me, guys? Did you understand the flow? Yes. So now let's go to the controller. So in the controller, what's happening? In the controller, the control will come to this add cafe method, right? Because here, this is the method which will be called if a post request is received on /add cafe. So in my index page, when the user enters all the data and when he clicks on submit button, a post request is made to this endpoint called add cafe. So the control will come to this controller method add cafe here. Yeah. Now I want you to analyze the add cafe method from line number 34 to line number 50. Go through it, please, all of you. All these we have discussed. It's regular RESTful web services kind of thing, right? Nothing to do per se as like Spring Boot. Yeah. Now, what is happening in this? This add cafe method will be called when a post request is made on add cafe. So in the form, what and all you would have sent? You would have sent cafe name and you would have sent the cafe description. So that we will be able to access by using model attribute. So by using @model attribute, I'm accessing the model attribute called cafe name. Cafe name is this, right? Whatever name you have given here. Yeah, whatever name you have given here for the individual text boxes, that will be treated as the model attribute, right? So I will be able to retrieve the value of the model attribute called cafe name and I'm storing it in cafe name. Similarly, I'm retrieving whatever model attribute that you have entered for cafe description. I'm storing it in cafe description. Yeah. Then inside this, I have some sysout statements just for my own understanding. I want to print these messages in the console so that I just check whether things are working fine. But using this data, look at what I'm doing here. I'm creating a new object of cafe info and I'm saying new cafe info and I'm passing cafe name and cafe description. Yeah. Is it okay that I'm not passing the cafe ID? I'm creating a new cafe info object just by passing name and description. Yes, because ID is auto generated, right? So I'm just going to create this cafe info object. And after creating the cafe info object, look at what I'm doing. I am using cafe info service. Cafe info service is the service class that we plan to use, which I've already auto-wired an object of cafe info service, right? Now, once my object is created, I'm calling the cafe info service and I'm calling the method called add cafe, okay, of that service, and I'm passing this cafe info object. That is what I'm passing. So from here, where does the control go? From here, the control goes to the service class, right? Which method? Service class add cafe method, isn't it? Yeah. So let's go to the service class now. Here, this is my service class. And in the service class, the control will come to the add cafe method. Yeah, this is the add cafe method. Yeah. Now, I want you to look at the add cafe method, please, all of you. Go through it. Things like REST template, etc. you can ignore. Don't worry about REST template right now. Yeah. I want you to first look at from line number 18, please, all of you. Line number 18 till line number 31. You can ignore this REST template. I'll talk about that later. What am I doing on line number 22, guys? I've auto-wired something here, right? What object is provided to me on line number 22? Correct. I get a reference of my repository interface. You remember my repository interface is the main heart and soul if you need to talk to your database, right? So I've already created the cafe info repository. So here I'm creating a reference of cafe info repository and I've auto-wired it. Yeah. So if you all recollect, the repository is already created. This one you remember? Yeah. I created my own interface called Cafe Info Repository, which extends from JPA repository, and I had given all these. Yeah. So here in this service, I am auto wiring and asking for reference of that. Yeah. And once that is available, then in my case, where does the control come? We were here, right? From here, it is calling the cafe info service add cafe method. So the control will go to the add cafe method. So the control would have come to here. Okay. Can you look at this and tell me what is happening? These two are just system out.println, just for my understanding. What am I doing on line number 30? Yes, using the cafe info repository reference, I'm just calling the save method. And what should I save? Here I'm passing the cafe info object, right? So here, whichever cafe info object I want to save, that I am passing as the argument. So whatever cafe info object you pass, that is available here. And using the cafe info repository interfaces reference, I'm calling the save method and I'm saving the cafe info. Team, are you all with me? Yeah. And here it is using a return. So whenever it saves, the save method returns whichever object was saved. Whatever object was saved, it will return the same object. So that is what is getting returned. So in the controller, what am I doing? When I call this, if everything is fine, it should have returned an object. That returned object, I'm trying to store it in a temporary object here called saved cafe info. And I'm checking. If saved cafe info is not equal to null, that means what? If it's not equal to null, the object is there. That means the saving is successful. In that case, I am returning success. Else, for whatever reason, database down, blah, 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 whatever, if there is any failure, it wouldn't have returned anything. If it is null, then it should return fail, isn't it? Yeah. Now, what is this success and fail, guys? Is it just a string or will it be taken as a logical view name? Correct, it's a logical view name. So success will map to templates.success.html and fail will match to templates.fail.html, isn't it? Yeah. So in our case, if I have, okay, if my addition is successful, for example, I say grand, okay, and I'll say it's a 5-star cafe, something like that. Okay. Here, if it is successful, it should show you this, right? See, it is showing you the success screen. And in the success screen, it's showing cafe information successfully added. And here I'm also showing a link, all that, right? So this is what gets shown. So here, please note, if everything is successful, it will return success, else it will return fail. So success will be a view, fail also will be a view. So let's analyze these views and come back. So you can see that under templates, I've kept these views, right? So success.html. Let me show this. It is this, guys. Sorry. This one. Yeah. Have a look. Simple HTML, guys. Yeah. Just go through it. Easy, right? Some style to apply background and all that. And in this, I only have one heading one, cafe information successfully added, plus I have a hyperlink. Yeah, so here, here cafe information successfully added, plus I have a hyperlink. But when somebody clicks on this hyperlink, see, if somebody clicks on this hyperlink, can you see a request is made to which endpoint, guys? When somebody clicks on this, a request is getting made to which endpoint? /get cafes, right? /get cafes. So where do you think is a functionality to handle this endpoint? Correct, it will be there in the controller. So if somebody clicks on this link, it will go to the get cafes method. So let us go to the controller. Yeah. So are you all comfortable with this, guys? Yeah. Let me also, just give me a minute. I will also share with you what fail looks like. Same thing. This is fail.html. Nothing great. It will just say, sorry, app encountered an error. Okay, for now, I'm just keeping it as simple. Yeah. Now, as we know in success, if it is success, obviously it will show you this, and there will also a link to show the get cafes. So the control will go to the get cafes method, right? This is the get cafes method. Have a look at this get cafes method, please, all of you. Go through from line number 52 to 56. Then we'll have a discussion. Okay. Now, one very important thing you need to know is when somebody calls get cafes, right in front of this method will be called. But right in front of this method, I am also using response body. Of course, I could have used a view, but here I am using a response body. So what is the meaning? Controller plus response body leads to what? It's equal to REST controller. Correct. That means it will return data, right? It will not return any view, but it will return the data as it is, isn't it? Yeah. So you can see get cafes method. What type of data is it returning? It is returning a list of cafe info. So to get that list, you can see I am again calling cafe info service, and in cafe info service, I'm calling the method called get cafes. Yeah. So in cafe info service, get cafes method is this. Yeah. Can you look at this get cafes method and tell me what is happening here? This is the get cafes method, right? So can you look at this and tell me what is happening here? Right. Using the cafe info repository, which is the main heart and soul to interact with the database, I'm calling the method called find all. Guys, hopefully all of you remember. See, earlier by using this cafe info repository, I called the save method. Here I'm calling the find all method. Did we sit and write all these methods anywhere? Did we sit and implement these methods anywhere? No, right? Who provides all these methods to us automatically? Correct. Spring Data JPA, right? Through the JPA repository, isn't it? Yeah. So that is the advantage that we get. Yeah. So find all method, as the name itself suggests. What does the find all method do? It returns all the objects of that particular type. So in my case, it is cafe info. So this should return all cafe info objects, isn't it? Yeah. So it should return all cafe info objects. Anyway, so once whatever it returns, I'm receiving it here, right? So here, whatever I return, I receive, I'm just directly return. So whatever data gets returned, that gets returned here in the form of list. Yeah, but we know that because it is returning data, automatically Spring REST will unmarshal the data or marshal the data into appropriate formats, right? So in our case, I'm returning the objects, and the objects will be marshaled accordingly to JSON format by default, isn't it, guys? Yeah. So you can see here, the moment I click on this link, it should show me all the cafes. So if I click on this link, yeah, it is showing like this. Okay. Actually here, because I saved my data, okay, because I made the changes now and I've saved my data. Can you see that all the data is lost because the app is restarted, right? Because I've enabled dev tools. Whenever I make any changes and save my app will be saved. All of you remember that? Yeah. And automatically it will be rebuilt. That is why you don't see any data. Okay. So let me add one data. Correct. Because this is in-memory database, right? Okay. Now you can see I have one cafe that I've added. So this is what gets shown, isn't it? Yeah. Similarly, apart from these, yeah, apart from these, if I just go to the controller, so we have just discussed this method. We have just discussed getCafe's method. Similarly, there are two more methods I want to discuss. Okay, this getAll method I will discuss later, not right now. But can you look at these two methods and tell me what is happening here? Any guesses? Look at this method first. 59 to 63. Yes, this will support any GET requests to getCafe based on an ID. So if you don't want to see all the cafe details, if you want to get the details of only a particular cafe ID, you will use getCafe endpoint and you will pass cafe ID as a path parameter or a path variable, right? And again, I'm using response body so that directly data will be sent. And here you can see whatever cafe ID you have passed, I need to receive it as a path variable and I'm storing it in an integer variable called cafe ID. Now using again calling cafe info service, I call the getCafe method and I pass the cafe ID. So I'm calling only the getCafe method and I'm passing the cafe ID. Yeah. So it will go to the service class. It will call the getCafe method and it will just get only the cafe ID. Yeah. Cafe ID. So what is it doing here? Inside again using the repository, it is calling the method called find by ID method and it is passing the cafe ID. So what does it return? This will return only one cafe info object based on the ID. Isn't it, guys? Yep. See, now again I made changes and I saved. Again, redeployment will happen. Okay. Anyway, does not matter. And so this is, okay, this is one thing. So here, if I refresh, so this is how it looks. Yeah. And now if I use getCafe and I pass a ID, you can see that that detail will be shown. Yeah. Similarly, the last method that we are going to discuss is this method. Yeah. This one. Any guesses? Go through it, please. Line number 66 to 70. Correct. It returns the count, right? So if somebody is accessing /count, it will call this method. And in this method, what am I doing? Again, using cafe info service, I'm calling the getCafe's method. GetCafe's method will return the entire list, but I want only the size, right? So from the getCafe's, I'm only getting the size. And because I'm just returning it as a string, this size will be integer. So that integer I'm converting into a string, and that is what I'm printing, right? So here in my case, if I at present use count, yeah, count, you should get 1 here. Isn't it, guys? Yeah. Team, are you all with me? So these are the methods that are there. Plus, you also see that there is one getAll method here. I'm supporting one getAll method. Plus, I have a corresponding service method to handle that getAll method. But I will talk about this getAll method later. For now, don't worry. Yeah. Did you understand the features provided by this particular cafe info, please, till now? Okay. So that's it. Almost ready. And again, finally, not to worry. Yep. Coming back to our cafe info application. Yep. Have a look. Yeah. Don't worry about this REST template. REST template is required only for some specific purpose. I will talk about that. Yeah. Don't worry. But apart from this REST template code I've written, all the other code are you comfortable with, guys? Same thing, right? Regular application, public static void main, where I'm bootstrapping and launching my app. Yeah. Team, are you all with me? Okay. So that is the first program. Yeah. Now is the time for us to take a break because first program we have discussed. When we come back from the break, we will talk about the second program, which is cafe review. Almost exactly like this, but it is handling the review part, right? People can give a review about a cafe, right? That is what we will handle in the cafe review. And once both of them are up and running, I will introduce you to the missing piece. Remember, there was one method called get all, yeah, and there was some entry for rest template. Yeah, we have not discussed about that get all method in the cafe info, right? That also we will discuss. Team, are you all with me? So we will take a break now and come back 15 minutes and then we can resume. Before the break, we have discussed the first microservice, which was cafe info. Now continuing with our discussion, we will look at the second microservice called cafe review. Yeah. Meanwhile, before that, hopefully all of you remember at present, based on our interactions with cafe info, we have added one cafe. So you can see that if I use get cafes and look at the details that are available, at present, there's only one cafe that I've added, right? Now, as you can make out, using the cafe review microservice, the purpose is to add a review for a particular cafe. Yeah. So before I take you through the code and we discuss the code one by one, very similar to how we did for cafe info, I'll do one thing. Let me run this app. Because when you run this app and when you discuss, it becomes easier. Okay. So let me run this app. Before running this app, I just want you to look at one thing, only the server port. Can you look at the server port and tell me cafe review is available on which port? Correct, 8096, right? So let me run this. We will access the functionalities and then we will get a fair idea. So you can see that the Tomcat has been initialized on port 8096 and it's up, right? Now, before I show you the review part, meanwhile, what I'm going to do is I will also show you this. Yeah? See, my cafe info is up, right? Cafe info is up. Now, what I'm going to do is, if you want to check the database, for example, this is the ID for cafe info. Right under that, if I am using what database in cafe info, guys? Which database am I using? Correct, H2 database. And as per our configuration that we have set, the H2 console is available under the H2 path, isn't it? So on your app URL, if you want to access the console, you will say H2, right? /H2. So when you say /H2, you should be able to see the details. Now here, you should enter the JDBC URL. So in our case, yeah, if you remember for cafe info, yeah, if you look at the application.yml, it is JDBC connection URL is JDBC H2 mem MSDB, right? So use that. So here it will be JDBC, whatever. Just change it to whatever database is yours, MSDB. Driver class is the same. Username is root, password is root, right? Test the connection if you need. So it's giving me test successful. Now you can connect. Once you connect, you should be able to see that MSDB is your database. Yeah. This one, this is your connection and this is your tail. Cafe info is your tail. Yeah. So under cafe info, you can see once you run it. Can you see this, all of you? Yes, right? So this is the table and this is the data that is there. Okay. So I just thought you can access the H2 console, you can check your data, etc. like this. But please remember, because it is in-memory database, the data, etc. will be available only until the app is up and running. So whenever you make changes, etc., and you save it, automatically it will redeploy, isn't it? Yeah. So this is ready, isn't it? Yeah. So now what we'll do is I just wanted to show you how to access that H2 console. Yeah. So now shall we continue our discussions on the second microservice, please? So you can see that my cafes are ready. Cafe info is ready. Now what we will do is we will try to add some reviews. So to add some reviews, I will be accessing the port 8096 because cafe review microservice is running on 8096, isn't it? Yeah. So first let me access 8096. Now, so it opens up a review page, very similar. Yeah. So here I need to provide 3 details. Yeah. Plus, of course, apart from this, I also have a review ID. But review ID is auto-generated, so I don't need to enter. But rest of the 3 things I have to enter. What is the customer trying to do here? Using this, the customer is trying to provide a review for a particular cafe, right? So assume I'm planning to give a review for cafe 1. So you can just say cafe ID is 1. Assume I'm giving a rating of 4. And here in cafe remarks, I can say fabulous cakes. Okay, I'm giving review for this, right? ID and all this. And once I'm here, I'm click on submit. Okay. Now, once I click on submit, same almost. You can see that cafe review successfully added. And once I click on view all cafe reviews, it is showing me this review. Are you all with me, guys? Can multiple reviews be given to the same cafe, guys? Can multiple reviews come for the same cafe? Absolutely, yes, right? So at present, I've given one, okay, one review. Let me try to give another, assume another customer gives another review for the same cafe. So cafe ID is 1 only, but this person gives maybe a cafe rating of 2. And maybe he'll say ambience, okay, ambience is average, like this, okay, and clicks on submit. So obviously the review has added, and when we click on all the reviews, these are the reviews that are there. Guys, are you all with me? Yes. So that's all I'm doing here. Okay, that's all I'm doing here. Yeah. So how have we dealt with this? What are the functionalities we have taken care? Come, let's have a look at the code. Now that we have already completed our discussions on cafe info, understanding cafe review will be very easy because the code is almost the same. Yeah. So come, let's look at it one by one. Yeah. So how have I created cafe review? Cafe review also is a microservice. It's a Spring Boot app. So the same steps I have used. Yeah. So first let's analyze form.xml, please, all of you. Same thing. See, Spring Boot version 2.6.6. I'm using Java version 1.8. Please ignore any reference to Spring Cloud version. We'll talk about that later. Let's look at the dependencies. Are you all comfortable with the dependencies from line 22 to line 37, please, all of you? Line 21 to 37. Yes. Okay. Again, ignore the dependency for resilience 4J. I will be using this next Thursday. On the last day of our discussion, we will be working with something called a circuit breaker. And for that, we will be using resilience 4J. So don't worry about it right now. Yeah. So I have dependency for actuator, Spring Data JPA, web, time leaf, all that. Then have a look. Are you all comfortable with these dependencies from line number 49 to line number 65, please? Yes, same thing, right? Dev tools, then H2 database I'm using, and then test, which automatically gets added. Yep. For now, please ignore dependency management. We'll be talking about dependency management from Monday onwards. Why is it needed? And are you all comfortable with the Spring Boot Maven plugin? Yes, isn't it? Yeah. So that is ready. Yeah. So pom.xml is ready. Once the pom.xml is ready, before we move on to the code discussion, let's have a look at the application.yml, please. Have a look. Yeah. Again, don't worry about all these things that you see below. Okay. No need to worry about that. Yeah. So in fact, I can remove it from here also. Okay. So no need of any such details. Okay. Just give me a minute. Okay. Look at this, all of you. Are you all comfortable with this code or with this configuration? So you can see that it redeployed. So I might have to add reviews again. Yeah. Same thing, right? But this is running on 8096 and I'm still using the same H2 database for this. And this is the console. Yeah. So this is ready. Yeah. Now, once this is ready, let's have a look at the rest of it. Okay. So first, let me introduce you to the model class, my entity class. I'm calling it as Cafe Review. Yeah. Have a look at this, please. This is my entity class called Cafe Review. How many properties are there? Correct. 4 properties. Out of these 4 properties, which property is going to act as the unique ID? Correct. Review ID. Yeah, review ID. For every review, I have a separate ID. And I have the other properties, cafe ID, cafe rating, cafe remarks, and all that, right? So review ID will act as the ID, and this is my main entity. Rest of it are the same. Constructor, parameterized constructor, getter, setter, all that is available. Yeah. Next, once cafe review is ready, anyway, I'm going to use Spring Data JPA to interact with my database. So obviously I will have my repository interface. So this is my repository interface class. Okay. Again, don't worry about the extra query method that I've written. I will come back to it in our last discussion for today. Yeah. But rest of the code, don't worry about this line 10. Yeah. But are you comfortable with this interface that I've created, please? Yes, isn't it? Yeah. So this is right. Yeah. And okay, anyway, we are here. Let me explain this. People who are aware of Spring Data JPA, I'm sure you are aware that because you are creating your own interface and you are extending from JPA repository or CRUD repository, by default, you will have access to all the common and general methods that might be helpful for you to work with your database, right? So you will by default have method called save. You will have method like find all, find by ID, and all many things. But by default, do you think in this case, it will provide you automatically a method where you can find all the cafe reviews by the cafe ID? No, right? Please note. Here, look at this class. What is the primary key here? Which is the primary key or which is the ID? Correct, review ID. So, because this is the primary key, your repository interfaces will by default support methods where you can find all the elements by ID. So, a method called find by ID is available. But in my requirement, I also want a query which can help me to find all the cafe review objects by the cafe ID. So I want to get all the reviews by the cafe ID. So such methods will not be by default available. So if you want to enable that, you have to make an entry like this. So there is a naming convention that you have to use. Look at the name. Name should be like this. Find all by, what is the property? Cafe ID. So find all by, what is my intention? I want to find all the review objects by cafe ID. So what should it take? It should take a cafe ID as the argument, and then it should provide you a list of all the cafe reviews. Guys, are you all with me? Yeah. So here I am adding this below method. Yeah. Will support, okay, querying by cafe ID. Okay, querying by cafe ID. So if you pass a cafe ID, it will return all the objects for that particular cafe ID. All the review objects for that particular cafe ID. Yeah. So we'll support querying by cafe ID, and it will return, return a list of all cafe reviews, okay, by cafe ID. Team, are you all with me? Yeah. So this is one extra thing I have done. That's yeah. So a repository also is ready. Now we will look at the controller. Yeah. Now have a look at this, please, all of you. Are you all comfortable from line number 16 to line number 25? Same thing, right? So when you see that this class has been annotated with @controller, you are getting a hint that we will be returning view in majority of the case, right? Plus, because this controller is going to talk to this intermediate service class, I've also auto-wired an object of cafe review service. Very similar to how I followed in cafe info. Here also I'm going to have a separate service class which actually has the code to do the activities. Yeah. Are you all comfortable from line number 23 to line number 26? Yes, same thing, right? When we receive a get request on the root, index method will be called, and the index method is returning index. So index here is what? Index will be a logical view name which gets mapped to the physical view name, isn't it? Yeah, index.html. Yeah. So this is index.html. This one is index.html where I have a heading plus I have a form where the user is supposed to enter 3 things and submit. Yeah. So let us look at the index page. Actually, majority of the thing is plain simple HTML and CSS. Just concentrate on the form, please, all of you. From line number 14 onwards, you can concentrate. How many items should I enter in the form? 3 items, right? Cafe ID and cafe rating and cafe remarks. Just by using HTML5 properties, can you look for the cafe rating? Some properties I have given. What is the minimum and maximum value anybody can enter for a cafe rating? Yeah, I've just set it as 1 to 5. Yeah, you can see I've just set it as 1 to 5 here, right? Of course, you have to also take care of the server side validation checks. But just to keep it simple, I've just applied one validation on the UI. Yeah. And that's it. So once I enter the cafe ID and once I enter the cafe rating and cafe remarks, I will click on submit. But when I click on submit, please note line number 14. A post request will be made on add review endpoint, right? Where is this add review endpoint? Correct, it's part of the controller. So let's go to the controller. And here is my add review method. Very similar to the previous one, guys. Whatever we have done in Cafe Info. Yeah. Have a look at add review. Are you all comfortable with this? Go through it and tell me. From line number 28 to line number 44, please. Yes, almost the same, right? So when a request comes on add review, obviously you would have entered three things: cafe ID, cafe rating, and cafe remarks. So using model attribute, I'm receiving all those details. Yeah. Then these are sysout prints, just for my understanding. Using all these, I'm just going to create a cafe review object here. And once I create a cafe review object, I am going to call the cafe review service, and I'm going to call the add review method, and whatever cafe review object I created, I pass it here. So the control will go to the service class, and in the service class, it will call this method called add review, and I've passed this cafe review. So let's go to that service class and look at what code I have written. Very simple, very similar to the previous one. Yeah, have a look. Are you all comfortable from line number 11 to line number 20? Go through it and tell me. Yes, right? Same thing. Yeah. I've auto-wired a reference of cafe review repository, because that is the heart and soul interface for me to perform my whatever database operations. And this is the add review method. So add review method is what I'm calling here. By using cafe review service, I'm calling the add review method, and I'm passing cafe review. So the control comes here and it will receive the cafe review, and nothing great. It is just saving it. And whatever object gets saved, that is getting returned. So here I'm just checking whether I received any saved cafe review. If it's not null, that means it's success. So I'll show success. Else I'll show fail. Yeah. So in my case also, once I give a review, okay, assume I give a review here. So maybe I will say this. Yeah. So you can see here, once I review, you can see the review ID. Yeah. You can see the review. So this is the success screen that you see, right? In the success screen, when you click on it, you can see all the reviews. So how does it look? So this is the success screen, or you will see the fail screen. So how does the success screen? Very similar to the previous one. Have a look. Go through it. Are you all comfortable with this, please? So you can see, I'm just saying cafe review added, but to view all the cafe reviews, I'll hit this endpoint called get reviews. So again, this get reviews endpoint is supported in the controller, and I'll show that. Meanwhile, let us also look at fail. In case there were any failure, you'll get a fail. Nothing great. Fail is same. Sorry, app encountered an error. Now going back to our controller, because if it's success, to see all the cafe reviews, you will hit get reviews, right? So what's happening here? Have a look. Get reviews method. Again, I'm using response body. That means controller plus response body will return data. And what is this get reviews method doing? Again, it is accessing the cafe review service and calling the get reviews method. And in get reviews method of the service, it is just using the find all method to find all the reviews. And that is what it is written. Isn't it? Guys, are you all with me? Yeah. And here is where I will just receive it in the controller, and I'm just directly printing. Yeah. Similarly, any guesses what is happening from line number 52 to 56? Correct. Just count of reviews. I'm first getting all the reviews by using get reviews, and I'm just finding the size. That is what I'm returning. Yeah. Plus, have a look at the last method, please. Are you all comfortable with this? Look at it and tell me. But did you realize that here I am trying to get a review not by its review ID. I am getting a review based on a particular cafe ID, isn't it? Yeah. So the user will enter a non-primary key, in my case cafe ID, and I'm trying to get the, I will receive the cafe ID that you have passed as the path parameter. Then I'm calling the same get review method, but this time I'm passing the cafe ID. But if you remember, in this review method, get review method, what am I doing? Have a look. Yeah. So this is the get review method. Can you look at this and tell me what method am I calling in line number 29? You remember where I have added this? Yeah. Yes, correct. I've said find all by cafe ID, but where have I added this? Correct. You remember this by default was not made available to us, but we added it in the repository because we wanted support to find all the review objects by cafe ID, right? So this is the method that I'm calling from the service. So this will return a list, and that is what gets printed. Team, are you all with me? So the service and the controller is done. And of course, let me show you the application. So look at the main application runnable class, please. Are you all comfortable with this? Yes, isn't it? Yeah. Guys, are you all with me? So that's it. We are almost ready. Now that both of them are up and running, let us recheck. We'll do one full round now from the beginning. Okay. So if I say get cafes, at least at present, I have only one cafe, which is the Nilgiris, which is a cake shop. Now let me go to this get reviews. At present, I have one review that I've added, right? For the same cafe. So let me add one more review just to show it. Same cafe 1. I'm giving a 2 rating and I'm saying ambience average. Okay. Okay, like this. Is that okay, all of you? So what we'll do till now is, let me just summarize in terms of its functionalities that are there. Okay. So first microservice, okay, which is the microservice that I have. This is the cafe info microservice. Okay. And cafe info microservice is available and running on 8095. Isn't it? All of you agree with this? And in this method, if you remember, it supports all these endpoints. This is the index page. Okay, index page. And add cafe will help you to add a new cafe info. Then get cafes will get all the cafe info objects. Then get cafe by ID. Okay, by ID, for example, 1. This will get the cafe info object for a particular ID. Yeah. Plus, apart from that, we also have count. Isn't it, guys? Are you all comfortable with this till now? Yes. Similarly, I have another microservice, right? So this is, I'm just calling it as microservice 1. And this one I'm calling it as microservice 2. And in this microservice, this is cafe review microservice. And this is available on HTTP localhost 8086. And under this, again, this is the index page. Okay. And from the index page, obviously, I will hit the add review. And in add review, I can add a new cafe review here. And then you have get reviews Get reviews will get all the reviews. Okay. Then get review by ID. So this will get, okay, the review for a particular cafe ID, right? So let me just put this. This one is a cafe ID and I can get this. Are you all comfortable with this, guys? Yes, right? But have you realized that till now, both these microservices are acting as a single unit of work, right? One microservice is handling cafe info related details. Another service is handling cafe review related details, isn't it? Yeah. Now, let me ask you one question. Okay. So both of them are individually handling the details. Okay. So my cafe info is one microservice and cafe review is another microservice. And they both of them are two separate microservices, two separate programs. At present, absolutely no interaction is happening between them, isn't it, guys? Right? That is how they are. But let me ask you one thing. Assume I want, my intention is, in the cafe info, apart from all the other functionalities that I have till now, assume I want to support another endpoint called get all. Okay, get all method. But what is this get all endpoint should show me? When somebody hits, so I'm planning to add it in the cafe info. Of course, you could have added it in a separate microservice. But just to keep it simple, assume in the cafe info microservice itself, guys, I am discussing a very, very important point now. I want you to be doubly attentive. Are you with me? Yeah. I am discussing a very, very important point now. I want you to be doubly attentive. Yeah. Now, so my intention is I want to introduce one more functionality or an endpoint called get all. And the expected functionality is get all should get the cafe info. Okay. Assume I say get all and I pass one ID. Okay. One, assume. So what should it do? The output should show, of course, it should show cafe info. Plus, for this particular cafe, for one, I should also show the corresponding cafe reviews also. I want to show even the cafe reviews. So as one shot, Yeah. So for example, let me show you because now both the apps are running. I will demonstrate what is my intention. Okay. Assume I access, yeah, get all endpoint and I pass a cafe ID as 1. Okay. I want you to look at the output. Look at the output and tell me what output is this view giving me? It is giving me both cafe info and review details. So on top, you can see it is giving me the cafe info, cafe ID, cafe name, cafe description. That anyway, you will get it from the cafe info. But here I am also showing for this particular cafe, you entered all the reviews, right? That also is getting shown. Yeah, here. Are you getting a feeling? Are you able to understand that? See, cafe info, anyway, you'll get it from your current microservice. But how will you get this data? I am still in cafe info, but where are you getting this data from? Where is this method which can give you all the reviews for a particular cafe ID? Correct. This is from the cafe review, isn't it? Yeah. So coming back to this summary, I want to add another endpoint called get all. What is this get all supposed to do? First, it should get a particular cafe ID. So assume I just say get all of one. So first it will try to get this. Yeah, that is anyway within the same microservice. It will get the cafe details. But plus it should get, okay, it should get the review details. How will it get the review details? Yeah, to get the review details, it has to, okay, it has to make a call to the cafe review microservice and call the endpoint. Which is the endpoint? It should call get review followed by the title. This one, right? Are you getting this, guys? This is very important. Yeah. First part of the data I'm anyway getting from my own microservice. But the second part of the data, I should get it from the other microservice. So are you realizing that for addressing this particular functionality, the first microservice has to communicate with the second microservice and make a call to one of the endpoints to get the data. Are you realizing that? Right? So how do I do this communication? How can I make a call from one microservice to another microservice? Just to keep it simple, here is the code that I have added. Yeah. So first let's look at the no change is required in cafe review because absolutely no changes or no additions have happened in cafe review. But in cafe info, look at what I've done. Remember, guys, I many times I told you, ignore this line, ignore that line. Yeah. Now we will look at those lines. Okay. I want you to look at this. First, your controller. Rest of the code is the same. First, let's look at the controller, please. So this is a controller. We have discussed all the methods, but I want you to look at one method called get all. Yeah. Look at this, please, all of you. So when we receive a get request on get all method and you pass a cafe ID, I will receive the cafe ID that you have passed. And once you do that, you can see that this is the get all method. And what is this get all method returning finally? It is returning a model and view object. Are you all with me, guys? Yesterday also, when I was showing you a time leaf example, I showed you that example where model and view object can be returned, right? So this is one easy way how a controller can return some data to the view, right? So anyway, it is returning a model and view. But here, which method am I calling? From cafe info service, I'm calling the get all method and I'm passing the cafe ID. That's what I'm passing here, right? So let us go to the cafe review service and let us call the cafe info service, and in cafe info service, let us call the get all method. Yeah. So this is just to suppress any warnings. Don't worry about that. Just go through it, please. Just go through it. Then I'll explain. Go through it. I'm sure you are able to understand what's happening in these first two lines, right? First, I'm creating, because it's supposed to return a model and view. And obviously, you got the cafe ID. First, I'm creating an empty model and view object. Now, I have to populate this model and view object with the relevant data. So to do that, first thing I'm adding is, I'm calling the method called add object. And the property name is cafe info. So I'm first adding all the cafe info. For adding cafe info details, no problem, because I have to get only the cafe info of this cafe ID. That is anyway available in the same microservice. So using this object, I'm calling the get cafe method and I'm passing the cafe ID. And what does it do? This will return the get cafe method and I'm passing this cafe ID. So this will return the particular object, right? Because it will return a optional type. To get the actual object, I use the get method. Yeah, so nothing great. This, I am getting a particular get cafe object and I'm getting that object, and that is what I'm populating it into cafe info. So just to reiterate, how will the model and view object look like now? In the model and view object, I am adding, yeah, what is the name I'm adding here? Cafe info. Yeah, I'm adding the name called cafe info. And in the cafe info, for that particular, what will be the value? The value will be that particular cafe info object. So this will contain the cafe ID, cafe name. In my case, it is Nilgiris, and whatever is the description of it. Okay, cake shop. Okay, all that will be available here. Are you all with me, guys? Yeah, it is added the cafe info and its details. Yeah. Next, it should add, in my case, it should add the cafe review. Right, it should add the cafe review objects for this particular thing, right? So to do that, okay, look at the line. This entire code till here is, okay, is the line to do so. Yeah. Now, are you all comfortable with line number 47? I need to call from this microservice. I am calling another microservice, right? That another microservice is running on which port? Yeah, all that entire URL I'm storing here, right? So I'm creating a URI. Yeah, it's a string URI object, and I am first keeping the URI. It is running on 8096, and which is the endpoint that I want to hit? Get review. And after get review, I want to get the review for a particular cafe ID, right? So that is what I'm passing. So I'm keeping my entire review ready, right? Sorry, the URI ready. Once I have the URI ready, look at what I'm doing here. I am using a REST template object. What is this REST template? Please note, RESTful Web Services was a mandatory training requirement before you attended this training program. So when you guys have worked with REST based web services, I'm sure you would have come across REST template, right? Can I say that REST template is a REST client? It is in fact a convenient template class provided by Spring. Yeah. And what is the purpose of REST template? REST template, using REST template, you can easily make REST calls, isn't it? Yeah. So using REST template, but where is this REST template? You can see here. Can you all see line number 24 and 25? Yeah. I have asked or I have auto-wired for REST template. But please remember, when you auto-wire for REST template, by default in Spring Boot, when you add the dependency for web, etc., by default, it will not provide you REST template. But if you want to use REST template, you can auto-wire for REST template. But for this to work, one more extra thing you have to do. Go into your main application. In the main application, can you all see what I have done from line number 17 to 20? How do you add extra beans onto your app, which you are instructing your application context to manage by making a bean entry, right? So in your main application class, make a bean entry. Yeah. And you say, look, I need a bean of type REST template. So have a method. And what is this method doing? It is just returning an object of REST template. So I'm just creating an object of REST template and I'm returning. So this object will now be available in your app and it will be managed by your application context. So easily you can auto-wire for it. So here you're saying auto-wire. So it will automatically give you the REST template. Now using this REST template, you can make your REST call. So what is your intention? From cafe info, you are making a REST call to the cafe review microservice and hitting one of its endpoint called get review, and whatever data gets passed, that is what you are returning, yeah, or you're using. So to do that, REST template class provides you a very convenient method called get for object. In get for object method, you will pass the URI that you want to access, which is this, and the second argument is the class type. So it will make a get request. So get means it is making a get request on which endpoint, the URI. And when it hits this, what is this method returning? It is returning a list of all the reviews for that particular cafe ID, right? So I want to return whatever response I got. I want to take it, or I want the response to be unmarshaled and given to you as a list type. So I just receive it as a list and I'm storing it in a temporary list called result. This is only for my understanding that I'm printing so that I know that details are coming correctly. And once everything is available, the result will contain all the review details for that cafe. Now again, I'm going back to my model and view object, and again I'm adding the object with the property called cafe review, and I'm adding this entire result. So how will it look? Cafe review, and this will contain a list. And in the list, how many ever reviews are available for that particular cafe, those review objects will be available. Guys, are you all with me? Yeah. So this data I was able to get from my own microservice, which is cafe info microservice. But to get this data and populate it here, how did I get this data from? Yeah. From cafe info, I made a call to the other microservice called cafe review, and which is the Spring supplied convenient template class which we have used to actually make a request onto this and get the data. Correct. We have used REST template. Guys, are you all with me? Yeah, we have used the REST template class. Yeah. So that's it. Once I get this, I have populated, and finally for this model and view object, I'm also setting the name as cafe all. So apart from the data, now I'm setting the view name called cafe all. Cafe all. So now the control will go to this view called cafe all. Cafe all view will have access to this particular date. Yeah. So that's what it is written. So it is returning the entire model and view object. So the control will come to cafe all. Where is this cafe all? Cafe all is the view. So let us look at the view. This one, right guys? This one where I'm showing all the details. So you can see that this is what I have. Sure. Yeah. Go through it, please, all of you. Yesterday also I have discussed how you can show some dynamic content in your time leaf views, isn't it? All of you? Yeah. Same thing I've used here. Okay. So here I'm accessing this model and view object. This data is available. This data is available. And that is what I'm printing here. Yeah. Go through the code, please, all of you. Go through this. So you can see that on line number 3, I have included the time leaf namespace so that I can start accessing the time leaf elements and time leaf expressions, right? So here is where I've included the time leaf namespace. Then these are my style statements. Then to print the data. So here you can see, here I have first printing the cafe info related details, right? So you can see here, I'm saying cafe info on review details on top. To print the details, now you can see that this is, I'm accessing cafe info, which contains only one object. And now my intention is from this object, I must print the individual properties separately, right? So how will you access this property? And this property will contain an object type. And in the object type, I want to access individual properties. Easy way of doing it is TimeLeaf provides you one attribute called as object attribute. So use the object attribute and supply your object, which is my cafe info, which is this name. So this will have access to the object. And now once I have access to the object within this div, look at how I'm printing. Using the TimeLeaf text element, I'm using a TimeLeaf expression. In the TimeLeaf expression, there is a inbuilt. Here you are using the object attribute, right? So to access in that individual object, if you want to access a particular property, you can use this expression. So within the expression, you will use one built-in object in TimeLeaf called hash object, and you will print the particular property. So I'm printing the property called cafe ID first, then cafe name, and then cafe description. So you can see that this is what I've printed here. Guys, are you all with me? And now I should print the review, okay, this one. And that is available here as review, cafe review, and it is a list of objects, right? Because it's a list, it is easy for you to iterate through the list. So you can see here the next set. In TimeLeaf, you have the each property or attribute. Using each, you can easily iterate through a collection type, right? So using each, I catch hold of the cafe review. Every review one by one, I take it into review. Then I can print each of these objects. Team, are you all with me? So that is how you get this output. Yeah. So what do you feel, guys? Yeah. At present, what have we achieved? At present, till now, we have created 2 microservices, cafe info and cafe review. Both of them are individual microservices running on each individual ports, individual things. This manages the cafe info functionalities. This manages the cafe review functionalities. Plus, just now in one of the methods, we have also implemented how one microservice interacts with another microservice, makes a call to one of the methods, pulls the data from here, and once the data is available, it is using it in its application. And this communication between the microservices, to do it, first you have to know the URI, which endpoint you want to hit. Plus, once you know the URI of that other microservice, which is the Spring supplied convenient class you have used to make the call. Correct. REST template. So using the REST templates, get for object method. In my case, I've used get for object method, and using get for object method, we have made a call to this, and whatever data I receive, I finally receive it and update it in my code. Team, are you all with me, please? Yeah. Whatever we have tried from cafe info, same thing you could have done from cafe review also. Yeah. Same funda, right? See, if cafe review also wants to talk to cafe info and maybe pick up some data, same funda, right? Here also, cafe review also should know about this URI. Then again, using REST template or any other mechanism, it has to make the calls like get for object, blah, 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 and make use of this, get the data. All that remains the same. Team, are you all with me? Yes. Okay. So with this, we come to the end of today's discussions. I'm not opening the forum for Q&A as of now. I will share both these programs in the MS team. Just give me some time and post it. I request all of you to go through these programs again. How we explained today, go through the flow, understand what is happening in each of those lines. And when we reassemble on Monday, we will continue with rest of the activities. Is that okay, all of you? Yeah. And please remember, things are going to get much more interesting from Monday, because till now we have only implemented only these two microservices, isn't it? And we have just ensured that one microservice is able to communicate to the other microservice. But in production environments, apart from just creating your microservice, what are the other peripheral projects that you might require? What help do they provide? That is what we will talk about. Okay. So when we assemble back on Monday, we will continue with the rest of the activity.